Peace and blessings, family. Peace and blessings. Let's do a quick sound check as well as video check. Make sure everything is good before we get started. Just let me know in the chat if the audio and the video are good. And if so, we'll get started right away. All right, so it looks good. We'll go ahead and get started. Everything is good in the chat. So peace and blessings, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to another live stream of G.O.C.C. Fit here for the Gathering of Christ Church, where we discuss all things health, fitness, and nutrition related. I'm your host, your neighborhood and certified personal trainer, nutritionist, and health coach, Rawchaa. Here back for a very, very important installment of our G.O.C.C. Fit. Let me go ahead and get the title for you all here so you can see what we'll be discussing for this live stream. Our title is All Things Macro Fats. All Things Macro Fats. So before we go into the information, let us first get the scripture out of the King James Apocrypha, the King James Bible. Okay, the original 1611 King James Bible had what many know as the Apocrypha and the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus. And we're going to chapter 13. Verse 15. All right, where it talks about health. Verse 15 reads, "Health and good estate of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth." All right, so the Bible letting us know how important it is to have good health, and that health is basically wealth. All right. And that there is no wealth that you can find in this earth greater than your physical health. All right. In your body. There's no amount of gold, no amount of money, no amount of materialistic possessions that can that's above having good health. So we want to stress that, make sure everybody knows the purpose here. Our mission is to make sure that we are taking our health very, very serious. And, a lot of us work and we put a high emphasis on making money and being successful. Well, we should be putting just as much, if not more, in all accounts, more emphasis on our health. All right. Investing in our bodies. Right. Investing time and investing resources, investing research and studying into what does it take to have a healthy body. And here to help you out, we have our G.O.C.C. Fit, where we discuss these topics. So much to discuss when it comes to health. And so for today, we're picking up where we left off. And I'm going to go into some definitions here in a moment, but we're here to discuss all things macro fats. Now, what is macro? Well, macro is short. It is an abbreviation for macronutrient. Before we get the definition of macronutrient, let us first get the definition of what is a micronutrient. So here we are on the World Health Organization, the WHO website, where they have a definition for us here from micronutrient. What do we have? It says micronutrients are vitamins and minerals needed by the body in very small amounts. So here we see that micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. And so for those that go on the G.O.C.C media, you will see that we have covered all the major vitamins and minerals for, our diet. Okay, that we would get in our diet. We've discussed them all, A to zinc, right? From vitamin A all the way to, and in between, and then all the way to zinc. We've discussed all the vitamins and minerals. And just a little bit more here, it says, however, their impact on a body's health are critical, and deficiency in any of them can cause severe and even life-threatening conditions. They perform a range of functions, including enabling the body to produce enzymes, hormones, and other substances needed for normal growth and development. All right, so those are your micronutrients. So when we say all things macro, we're now shifting, since we've covered all the micronutrients, and you can go and check those discussions we've had on micronutrients here on G.O.C.C Media. We're now shifting over to macronutrients. What are macronutrients then? This is a definition off of bhf.org.uk. What are macronutrients? It says here, macronutrients are the nutrients we need in larger quantities that provide us with energy. Okay, so the reason they're called macro is because we need them in larger quantities. Doesn't minimize the micronutrients. They're just smaller in size, right? Very, very important. Okay, we need both. And, one could even say that we need micronutrients above macro, even though macro means more or bigger. Micronutrients would be more important because of their direct impact on our health, whereas macronutrients are more so there for our energy. So what do we have when we talk about macronutrients? In other words, fat, which we're going to discuss today, protein, and carbohydrate. Micronutrients are mostly vitamins and minerals and are equally important, but consumed in very small amounts. Okay, so hopefully now we have a clear understanding of what we mean when we say all things macro. It is just a short abbreviation for macronutrient, and we're going to be discussing fats. All right, now this is very, very important because, and the reason I wanted to start with fats before, out of the three, you have protein, you have carbohydrates, or carbs for short. The reason I wanted to start with fats is because there's a lot of misconception out there when it comes to fats. There's a lot of deception out there when it comes to fats, a lot of uneducation. And I would say out of all of the three, most people probably, think fats are bad. Okay. They steer clear of fats because when you hear the word fat, typically you think, okay, that means I'm going to get fat. If I'm eating fats, I'm going to get fat. And that's just not simply the case, generally speaking. Okay. Fats are, the reason I wanted to start with fats because of the lack of education and understanding of what fats are. And because in combination with that, I believe fats to be the most important of the three when it comes to our health. And in line with a lot of people out there they steer clear of fats cognitively, but still end up getting fats, not understanding what's in their food when they're eating it. And a lot of times these fats that they're getting, they're not aware that they're there. And these are harmful fats that are having a direct impact on our health. Okay. The difference, we'll get there in a moment. I don't want to speak on that here real quick. So let me pull up a document here before I jump ahead of myself here. But that's the reason why we want to start with fats first, is because we really need to pay attention to our fats and what we are eating when it comes to this. When it comes to this macronutrient that gives us energy. So the first piece of information we're going to go into for this discussion, we have Fitness Nutrition, first edition, and this is published 2021. This is by ISSA, which is International Sports Sciences Association. Now, this is where I received my certifications for the personal training, the health coach, and nutritionist. And so this was my textbook that I studied from during that time to pass and receive those certifications. Okay, so we'll be going into this textbook and bringing out a lot of good information in here. We talk about nutrition. So let us jump down to fats. Okay, let us jump down here to fats. As you can see here, it gives a brief overview of what we'll be learning, or what a person would learn if they were to take this full course, which we're only going to hit certain parts of this topic in this chapter. We're not going to go through every single thing in regards to fats, but just the things that give us an idea, understanding of what fats are, as well as the benefits of where we can get them in our diet, as well as the harmful fats that are out there that we had to identify to avoid for our health's sake. All right. So first things first, what are fats? Let's get the definition here. Okay. This is chapter 6, page 115. It says here, fats, also known as lipids, have long been demonized in health and nutrition. So you may also hear fats referred to as lipids. Okay, or you may see lipid before you see a term, or in terminology. Basically, that lipid means it is a type of fat. Okay, but we also see here that fats have long been demonized. Okay, demonized to where people typically would think bad when you think about fats. Okay, let me avoid and not get any fats in my diet. It says, however, this macronutrient plays an important role in human physiology and is just as important as proteins and carbohydrates. Fats are dense and yield high amounts of energy through the beta oxidation pathway. They differ from proteins and carbohydrates in both digestion and assimilation. Like proteins, there are both essential and non-essential fats, and like carbohydrates, there are many different structural fats with different roles in the body. Now, before we proceed, again, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to fat. So we want to hopefully clear up the demonization, the misconceptions, and even in a resourced document such as this, there are some things that are not accurate, because you have the modern and more so what you would consider mainstream approach to understanding when it comes to fats, and what's been said for many, many years that's a misconception and a fallacy. All right. And so we want to use this as a source, but also correct the things that are inaccurate. And again, this is a 2021 published textbook here for ISSA. I'm pretty sure that as information has been spreading when it comes to fats and correcting a lot of things that were misunderstood and that we're in error, I'm pretty sure as the new editions of this particular textbook are released, that they'll have corrected that information. All right. As even myself have come into the knowledge of a lot of this information in more recent time through study. Okay. But nonetheless, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of good information still within this document. Okay. It says here, lipids are a necessary part of a balanced diet for numerous reasons, including the following. They store and help us use the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. They maintain the function and integrity of cellular membranes. They provide a concentrated source of energy, and they make meals more palatable and filling. So let me go ahead and bring up a chart here, kind of going into what we just read. Why do we need fats? Okay. And we haven't got there in this document yet, but there are some of the reasons here, and there's going to be many more than what you see even here on your screen. Okay. So when we talk about brain development, fats help our brains to develop. 60% of the brain is fat. Okay, so majority of your brain is fats or lipids. So imagine having an underdeveloped brain. Okay, how would that fare for us having underdeveloped brains because we don't have the necessary fats that have been given to us for nutrition in our diets, right? Or the mother who is nursing a newborn and she doesn't have the proper fats because there's a lot of fats that come within the mother's milk. That's very problematic. All right. But that's just one thing. You also see here the structural component of cells. So our cells, the outer layer, as well as some of the inner layers, are composed of fat. Okay. So it gives the cell its structure. So imagine your cells and all the components that are within the cells not being able to be contained. You're going to have these components everywhere within your body, all over the place, and the cells are not going to be able to process. They're not going to be able to do their jobs. Well, it's very problematic, right? Also, we talked about this within our micronutrient journey when we discussed the micros and we talked about the vitamins. We have what you call fat soluble vitamins. So you see over here, support the absorption of vitamins. You have your A, D, E, and K vitamins. So without fats, these vitamins cannot even be absorbed in the body. So imagine not getting any of these vitamins absorbed into your bloodstream or into your cells. That's going to be a big problem. Okay, so we're already seeing the importance of fats. And if you eliminate the fats out of your diet, these are the problems you're going to now have. Also, certain types help to keep a healthy heart and blood vessels. So again, we talk about the brain. How important is it to have a healthy heart? Okay, where our brain allows us to think, our motor functions, our neurons to allow us to move, okay, to have reflex and all of that. Our heart is what allows the blood to pump and flow throughout the body so that the blood cells can get to where they need to get and do their job. So imagine having an unhealthy heart or a heart that stops working. Very problematic. Now, what we're going to learn here today is that there are good fats and there are bad fats. And the good fats will go a long way in making sure that we have a healthy heart, whereas the bad fats would do the exact opposite and be very damaging to our hearts. So we have to understand it's not just about eating fats. It's about knowing, okay, which of these fats are good and which are bad. So that also must be identified within this discussion. And then lastly, we have source of energies because macronutrients provide us our energy. Now, when you look at fats, right, they're different than carbs and protein because carbs and protein provide 4 calories per gram. Okay. And calories we know are what we need for energy. Whereas fats provide 9 calories per gram of fat. So we actually get more calories to burn if we are burning fats, which means you're going to have more energy. So if you're somebody who you have energy issues, we could probably just do a analysis of your fat intake, and either you're lacking in fats or you have the wrong type of fats in your diet. And so therefore your energy levels are inadequate. All right. And now because of that, you're going to be you're going to fatigue quicker. You're going to feel very lethargic, very, lack of being energized. Right. So just a few things, and there's more we're going to discuss when it comes to fats and how they help benefit us with our health. Right. So now, more on fats. You have the major lipids found in the human diet and in the body. So here we have all the different types of lipids, from triglycerides to fatty acids. You have essential fatty acids, omega-3 fatty acids, gamma linoleic acid, medium chain triglycerides, phospholipids, lecithin, and cholesterol. So some of those you all may be familiar with, right? When it comes to fats, so there's a lot there, right? We talk about the different types of lipids or fats. The building blocks of lipids are fatty acids and the small molecule glycerol. Fatty acids are long chains of hydrogen and carbon ranging from 4 to 36 carbon atoms in length. Okay, so there's a lot of science when you talk about fats. We're not going to get too sciencey, okay? For those of you all who want to get more into the science, the atoms, and all of those things, you can go into that. But just a brief overview that depending on how many carbon atoms in length that a particular fatty acid has is going to determine the type of fat or lipid that it is. So they are classified by the number of carbons in their chains. And here you have that. I'm not going to go into that. Okay. Let's keep going here. And of course, you have the science where it breaks down the atoms. So nutritional fats are classified into 2 types. So this is the part we want to focus in on now. Nutritional fats, meaning the fats that are for our nutrition. You have saturated fats and unsaturated fats. And this is where the confusion comes in. We're going to correct the confusion. For so long, we have been given incorrect information on which fats are healthy and which fats are unhealthy. We're going to correct that. So which of these 2 fats are the healthy ones out of saturated and unsaturated, and which one is generally speaking the unhealthy? We're going to get that. Okay. Unsaturated fats have 1 or more double bonds between carbon atoms in the fatty acid chains. These can be further divided into monounsaturated fatty acids with just 1 double bond and polyunsaturated fatty acids with more than 1 double bond. Unsaturated fats make up structural components of cells and are important for proper growth, development, and maintenance of body tissues. These fats are derived from plants and plant-based foods. So, being that typically your unsaturated fats come from plants and plant-based foods, somebody would close the book and say, there it is. If it comes from a plant, then it has to be the best type of fat for us. We'll see if this is true or not. Because generally speaking, you don't typically find fats from plants and plant-based foods. You typically find them in animals. But there is a process to where you can extract fats from plants and get those fats. We're going to talk about that more here later. Here you have saturated fats contain the maximum number of hydrogen atoms. They are saturated. They have no carbon double bonds. This small change in molecular structure means they are in a solid state at room temperature, while unsaturated fats remain in a liquid state. So typically how you can determine which fat which is more saturated and which is more unsaturated. Typically the saturated fats are going to be more in a solid state at room temperature. So for instance, let's look at an example here. You have coconut oil. Okay, you would typically see coconut oil. People may see it in a solid state, unless you heat it up or it gets hot and then it starts to liquefy. Well, at the same temperature where you see coconut oil at a solid state, you could go over and you could see, let's say, a vegetable oil. We'll say soybean oil. You'll see soybean oil at a liquid state at the same temperature, letting you know, okay, coconut oil is going to be more saturated, which is coconuts are one of the few saturated oils that come from plants that are out there, while as the soybean oil is going to be unsaturated fat because it's in a liquid state. Okay, another example would be animal fat. When you find fat on an animal, typically what state is it in? It's in a solid state. So that means it's saturated. See that? Just so you can understand saturated versus unsaturated, okay? Saturated fatty acids are used for energy and stored as body fat. You see that? So body fat, like the fat that you would find, when you're looking at meat from an animal, all right, that's saturated fat. It's in a solid state, whether it's on the animal or it's in our body, okay, saturated. The shorter the fatty acid length, the easier it is to metabolize for energy. The longer fatty acids can also be used as energy or stored as body fat, but have other functions as well, such as cell membrane structure. All right, now let's see what the roles are for lipids in the body. Okay. The role of lipids in the body. Fats have a long-standing reputation in health and fitness, both positive and negative. Medical research has linked a diet high in saturated fats and cholesterol to diseases such as cancer, heart disease, and obesity. So we've been told that the animal fats are bad fats, that the cholesterol that you would get from, let's say, eggs are bad and can cause diseases such as cancer, heart disease, and obesity. But we're gonna challenge that today to see, is that true? If what we've been told in more modern time, this has been the shift in ideology. We're going to challenge this, okay? On the other hand, fats are essential to the normal functioning of cells and organ systems. Fats tend to make foods taste better, which can lead to weight control issues. So, yeah, people like to cook their food in fats, right? Animal fats. Who doesn't like to take some good animal fat? And again, we are Bible believers, so we're only dealing with clean animals here. But who likes to take some good animal fats and put it in some greens, right? Big pot of greens or some gravy or even some, pot of beans. Typically you'll see fats used to make foods taste better. But however, keeping in mind that if your diet is high in fats, that you have to be careful, because if it's too many calories that you're consuming and it's fats, you're getting more calories per gram than you would with carbs or protein. Okay, so there's a balance there. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so people that are eating lots and lots of fats, getting lots and lots of calories, that can be problematic. Okay. The importance of lipids in the body is evident, and restricting or strictly limiting fat intake should be avoided unless prescribed by a medical professional. So we need fats, okay? We must focus on, and now here momentarily we're going to go into the fats that we should be focusing on for our dietary intake, as well as those we should be avoiding, okay, for the sake of body function. Okay, so our bodies can function the normal way. We need to focus on making sure we're getting the right fats. Optimal health comes from the right balance between all three macronutrients. So let's get some more main functions of nutritional lipids. What do we have here? A major fuel source during exercise. So how many of you all go to exercise, and when you exercise, you just don't have a lot of energy? You just feel, very lazy, very tired. You don't really, have any motivation. Well, again, that could be from not having the proper fats in your diet, or not having any fats in your diet at all. Body fat stores for insulation and temperature regulation. Okay, so now typically those people who have more body fat are going to be more, warm natured, hot natured, right? They're going to be more so the ones that want the air conditioner on, whereas those people that don't have a lot of body fat might typically tend to be the ones that want the heater on. So fats help provide insulation and help us, our temperature in our body to be regulated. Absorption and storage of fat-soluble vitamins. Very, very important. Okay, we talked about that earlier. One of the most important things for fats is it allows the absorption and storage of fat-soluble vitamins. So somebody, a lot of those within the Black community, very, very, very deficient on vitamin D, vitamin D3. A big part of that reasoning is going to be you don't have enough fats in your diet, and you don't have the right fats. And now you have a vitamin D3 deficiency. Okay, it's just part of the reason. Doesn't mean that's the full reason. Okay, energy storage. Okay, fats are energy. A supply of essential fatty acids that the body cannot synthesize. So that we have fats that the body cannot make, and we have fats that the body can make. Okay. You also have protective padding for body structures and organs. Okay, so that's that insulation. So it gives your body some padding. It gives your organs some padding to protect them, right? We also have structure in membranes and other cell structures, which we spoke about earlier. Healthy skin, and who all doesn't want healthy skin? Our skin is made up of lipids. So if you don't have the proper fats, you're not going to have healthy skin. Building blocks for other biomolecules, and one of the top most important reasons for fats is hormone synthesis. This is big. Okay. And this is a reason why there's a lot of emotional imbalance in the world, especially here in America. Because if you don't have fats, or if you don't have the proper fats, it's going to throw your hormones all the way off. Okay. All of our hormonal tendencies are now thrown off, and all the different ways that hormones, typically when we think hormones, people think sexual, but yes, sexual in a sense, like a woman giving birth is sexual as far as the things that undergo in her body hormonally, with producing milk, with the gestation of the baby and the child, all that's hormonal. So if her fat intake, of end up getting the right types of fats is off, then her hormones are going to be all over the place. Okay. Same with young men. If hormones are all over the place, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a sexually unstable person, and it goes for women as well, but also testosterone as a hormone. So what has happened in our society where men have become very soft and very feminine? Well, if men are consuming a lot of bad fats and not the healthy fats, then they're not going to produce enough testosterone. Testosterone is that, hormone that gives men their masculinity. So you got to ask yourself, would society look to actually produce this result in men? Typically here in America, if their goal was to produce a lot of soft, feminine men, well, let's make sure they're not getting the proper fats so that their hormones are off. For women that produce children, let's make sure their hormones are off so when children go to have babies, you have complications, whether the baby is possibly short term. You could have where a woman could lose the child. You also have where the child could be born, they could be born with the deformities and all different types of shortcomings. So this is the reason why I say that whenever you get the right type of fats in your diet, your body is going to change, especially if you're here in America, because I guarantee you, majority don't. And you're going to notice it in your body. You're going to feel so much different getting the right type of fats, energy-wise and in your hormones. Moving on, more on that here later. It says once cellular energy needs have been met in the body, excess energy converted to triglycerides and fatty acids stores as body fat or adipose tissue. Excess fat is stored either subcutaneously under the skin or viscerally between organs in the abdomen via lipogenesis. Okay, so once the body has enough energy, the fat is then stored. Okay. Let's keep going here. Fats play an important role in hormone production, and nutritional intake of fat can affect several hormones and their downstream effects. For instance, nutritional lipids affect the synthesis of prostaglandins and steroid hormones, which are each a part of human reproduction. So again, if you want to sterilize a society, okay, or make it to where a society doesn't produce children in the way they should produce children, mess around with the fats. Give them unhealthy fats or tell them that the good fats are bad, right? Or tell them all fats are bad. Now you're going to have hormonal issues for human reproduction. The body makes prostaglandins and steroid hormones from cholesterol and fatty acids in cells. Okay. Let's keep going here. Now we're going to talk about essential fatty acids because these are fatty acids that the body cannot make. Of the many lipids, only 2 are essential. 3 others are considered important but are not strictly essential. They are sometimes referred to as conditionally essential because some people may need them due to disease or developmental conditions. Essential fatty acids cannot be produced in the body and must be supplemented or consumed as part of a balanced diet. Some of the specific functions of essential fatty acids include the following: maintaining the structure and function of cellular and subcellular membranes, serving as precursors for eicosanoids, which are important in regulating a wide diversity of physiological processes, transferring oxygen from the lungs through the alveolar membrane, maintaining proper brain and nervous system function, producing prostaglandins, a group of hormones important in inflammation and reproduction, forming healthy skin and hair, healing wounds, and the inflammatory response. So that's another thing that we have to understand when we talk about fats. The inflammatory or the inflammation part of all this, which we're going to touch on that. Okay, we're going to go into that. We're just touching on it now. You also have omega-3, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you are very familiar with omega-3 and omega-6. This is very important too. When we talk about omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-3 fatty acids are essential and play a critical role in human cell membranes on a micro level. On a macro level, omega-3s have been found to support brain development, fight inflammation, improve bone density, and reduce liver fat. Okay. You also have omega-6 fatty acids are also essential and primarily used for energy in the body. Now, here is a term that I want everybody to focus on and do your research. We're going to be talking about this a lot in coming discussions that we're going to have. Linoleic acid. Okay. I'm going to do a lot of talking about linoleic acid. It is a common omega-6 and is often consumed in far greater quantities than the omega-3 fatty acids. Research has shown the ideal ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 should be 4-1. So for every 4 of the omega-6, we should have 1 omega-3. But the average Western, I want you all to take note, Western intake averages closer to 16-1. Okay, that's average. So in the West, okay, America is the West, you have 4 times on average more omega-6, which is linoleic acid, than omega-3. Now, what is this going to, what is this going to produce, or what will be the result of this being the case, of having 4 times the amount of omega-6 to omega-3? And why is it so much higher in the West? It says here, due to extensive use of vegetable oils. Now, vegetable oils, another thing that we're going to have to circle and have a lot of discussion. We talk about vegetable oils. All right. These are very, very important, family, because a lot of people, a lot of us out here have no clue what's going on with our diets, what's good for us, what's bad for us. And if we do know what's good and what's bad, how to identify it in the food. And therefore, it's leading us to this disproportionate, number of being higher in omega-6 than omega-3. And now let's talk about what is the end result of having this ratio so out of whack, okay, and misconstrued. Okay, we'll deal with that in a moment. Let's talk about linoleic acid. Where do you find linoleic acid? Typically, mostly found in safflower, corn, and soybean oil. So typically vegetable oils. Now, how many of you, when you, look at your ingredients of your food, I hope you all are looking at your ingredients of the food that you buy and know what you're putting in your bodies. What do you typically see as the main ingredient or a very prevalent ingredient within our foods? Safflower, corn, soybean oil. This is your vegetable oil. And this is the reason why this number is so high to what it should be. This polyunsaturated omega-6 fatty acid can help reduce adipose tissue deposits and improve immune function. Okay. And not saying that it can't, but just like anything that you get too much of can be very harmful for you. Okay. So if we're only supposed to be getting it on a 4-to-1 ratio, but are getting it on average 16-to-1, what is that going to cause in our bodies? Okay. When we should be getting it, well, on a very, very smaller level. It says here, it is a vital role in cell membrane fluidity and structure, as well as cell signaling. Okay, there goes your science there to break it down with the atoms. Now here's what we need to understand when it comes to linoleic acid. Excess linoleic acid in the body can cause inflammation. So if we're getting 16-to-1 on average of this linoleic acid to where it should be on the lower scale of 4-to-1, in some areas you see that it needs to be more on the lower end of 2-to-1. Now you're dealing with a lot of inflammation in your body. Your body has now become inflamed. All right. We talked earlier about the heart and how fats can help the heart, but we also spoke about how they can also hurt the heart if they're not the right type of fats. So now imagine inflammation around your heart. Can anybody think to the greatest disease right now in America, the greatest killer in America as far as health and sickness? What is it? Heart disease. All right. So we're beginning to scratch the surface here and get someplace as far as why are there so many people who have heart disease, whether that's heart attacks, strokes, congestive heart failure, all these things. Well, you need to look no further than how much vegetable oil are you consuming in your diet, and where can you find vegetable oil within your food to identify whether or not you are getting too much. Also, imagine having inflammation on the brain. Okay. Inflammation on your brain, which takes us to our next issue when we talk about excess linoleic acid, headaches. Well, of course, if you have inflammation of the brain, your head's going to hurt, right? Your head is going to ache. And then if we come back here to our chart, our graph, we also have as a structural component of cells. So if you have inflammation in your cells, what is that going to cause in your body? What is that going to cause? Well, come back over here. We have lethargy, being lethargic, lack of energy, not energized because the cells are inflamed. The cells, they're on fire and they can't do their job. So therefore, you're not going to have energy. Okay. So where the sources we're getting this linoleic acid to this disproportionate amount of 16-to-1 and higher, you know, I would say a lot of people probably have it probably close to 30-to-1 with their diets. And we'll talk about why it's that high as well. How is it getting that high? Some of you maybe have already concluded why it's that high, just based upon where we're finding where linoleic acid is. Okay, but we're going to get more into that momentarily, right? It says, while deficiency can lead to skin and hair conditions like dermatitis and alopecia or developmental delays in children. So here's the key point. it should be noted that deficiency is rare. So if we're only supposed to get it on 4-1, and we're getting it average 16-1, then you don't have to worry about being deficient in this. Okay, linoleic acid. That's the least of your concern. Your focus should be on how do I eliminate this acid out of my diet, because based upon this information and more, it is dang near impossible to be deficient in linoleic acid. So linoleic acid, as far as being deficient, should be our least concern. Our biggest concern should be, how do I limit this to almost zero in my diet, based upon the fact that too much of it causes, we don't need to go any further than inflammation. Okay. And even you had the great Dr. Sebi that said, where you find all disease in the body, you find inflammation. So if your body is inflamed, you can best believe wherever the inflammation is, you have a problem. You have a disease. Okay. So even when you look at the deficiency symptoms versus the excess or the overconsumption symptoms, it's night and day difference as far as which is worse, the deficiency symptoms or the overdose symptoms, which is worse, right? But we're going to talk more about this linoleic acid here later, okay? And in future discussions, we'll be discussing this linoleic acid, but wanted to definitely point that out. Very, very important, family. And this is the reason why I wanted to have this discussion on fats this evening, is because of this fact. If heart disease is the #1 killer in our health in America right now, we have to understand why. Why are so many people having heart attacks and having heart problems? Okay. And once we identify, the why, now we must eliminate that root cause in our diet, okay, if we want to correct the problem, right? Now, more on essential fatty acids. The body uses them for growth and functional needs over energy needs. A diet high in essential fatty acids and low in non-essential fatty acids increases metabolism and discourages body fat formation, assuming reasonable calorie consumption. Flaxseed oil, walnuts, chia seeds, fatty fish, and poultry are good sources of the essential fatty acids. More on the foods here in a moment. Research has shown that eating the right ratio of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids can help reduce systemic inflammation in the body. See that? So now we're identifying, where is this inflammation coming from? Well, we know that we need to look no further than what are we finding mostly in mass, the most amounts in our food. Okay, in our food supply. What ingredient is the main, or there you see the most than any other ingredient? We need to look no further to that being the culprit of the inflammation and the heart disease. The recommendation for the nutritional omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is between 2-1 and 4-1. And I would personally say that we should be leaning closer to 2-1. However, most Americans eat far too few omega-3 fatty acids, resulting in a skewed ratio. The ratio for most Americans is between 11-1 and 30-1. Heart attack city, family. Okay. Brain damage city. Right. It's the reason why when you eat these foods, after you finish eating them, you feel bad. You feel sick. You have no energy. Okay. It's killing us. So now we're here to correct and focus on what we should be focusing on. It says here, EPA and DHA. As early as the 1950s, researchers found that EPA and DHA could lower cholesterol. Decades later, experts realized just how important these fatty acids are after documenting low rates of cardiovascular diseases among Greenland natives. This population consumes high amounts of fatty fish with DHA and EPA. So a very, very important thing to note as far as diet is concerned, fatty fish. Okay, more on the food in a moment, but probably the number one fatty fish out there, salmon. Okay, wild caught. Okay, not the stuff that they're getting and putting in farms and you're eating. No, wild caught salmon. Not only is it high in healthy fats, but it's also high in protein, low in carbs. Okay, but look at the fatty fishes out there, and this is a source of where you're going to get some of your best fats. EPA and DHA are omega-3 fatty acids, but can be produced in the body from the essential fatty acid ALA, making them not technically essential. Despite this, adding them to a healthy diet can have benefits, especially for diets low in saturated fatty acids. EPA and DHA disperse fatty acids and cholesterol in the bloodstream, which is thought to be how they reduce arterial clogging and cardiovascular disease. They have a blood thinning effect and discourage blood clotting. EPA and DHA may also lower blood triglycerides and raise high density lipoprotein, known as HDL, cholesterol levels. More on the cholesterol here as we go forward. EPA and DHA exert an anti-inflammatory effect and work by competing with arachidonic acid, which forms pro-inflammatory compounds. Studies using 2 to 4 grams per day of EPA and DHA from supplements and fish have reported significant increases in strength and aerobic performance. All right, so understanding that the omega-3 is the more important and really the omega of the omegas we should be focusing in on, while eliminating the omega-6 to a minimum. The reason why the ratio is as low as 2 to 1. Okay, it's just because the omega-6 is more abundant, whereas the omega-3 is less abundant. So therefore, it's easier to get high in omega-6. All right, let's keep going here. You also have omega-9, but omega-9 is actually not essential because the body can make it. So you don't have to worry about your omega-9. Okay. Here's a graph showing the cell and showing how the outer layers of the cell are made with lipid fats. The main function of phospholipids is the structural integrity of cell membranes. They also act as emulsifiers in the body. During digestion, they disperse or package fats in water to be moved for metabolism. Phospholipids are important structural components of brain and nervous system of lipoproteins, which carry cholesterol and fats in the blood. All right, moving on here. Now let's talk about cholesterol. Just about finished, family. We're going to finish up here. We have a video to show and some scriptures to go through, as well as another, as well as an article or other piece of information to show, and dealing with cholesterol. So here it says cholesterol is a member of a group of lipids called sterols. and is produced in the body. So how many people hear cholesterol and they think bad? Oh, cholesterol is high. Cholesterol is bad. Well, another misconception that's out there. Okay, because you have what is called nutritional cholesterol. It largely comes from animal products, although plants provide it in small quantities. Foods rich in cholesterol include liver, egg yolks, red meat, poultry, especially the skin, whole milk, and cheese. Right. So they would tell us that all this stuff is bad. Now, of course, liver, if a person wants to eat liver, that's their choice. But, we've talked about liver here before. Organs typically are where toxins accumulate because the body's, these animals' bodies are trying to get rid of the toxins. We live in a very toxic environment. Okay. So if you eat that particular organ, there's a chance that it could be very toxic. So that's the reason why I steer clear of organs, especially if you can get it in other places, the same thing. But they tell us the egg yolk is bad, all right? Don't eat the egg yolk. The red meat, don't eat the red meat. It's bad, right? Now, you don't really ever hear them tell you not to eat chicken, okay? Whole milk, bad. Don't eat the whole milk, and cheese, bad, right? We're going to discuss those things here. Cholesterol is a component of all cells, a precursor of bile acids, a precursor of various sex and adrenal hormones, a precursor of vitamin D, and an important part of brain and nervous system tissues. Okay, so understand the importance of cholesterol. All right, but what we have to understand is there's a good cholesterol and there's a bad cholesterol. It's like there's good fats and there's bad fats. Okay. So I'm here to hopefully help clear the demonization of cholesterol too here with the education. So there are two types of cholesterol, LDL and HDL. Okay. Here's your bad and your good. The HDL cholesterol is the beneficial type, while the LDL cholesterol can negatively affect the body. All right. So we're going to point out the good HDL, the good cholesterol, which is the HDL, where it's found in the diet, as well as the bad, the LDL, and where it's found in the body. But understand, our reproductive hormones, vitamin D, bile acids, component of cells need cholesterol. So you cannot eliminate cholesterol out of the diet. If you want to be healthy, you have to focus on the good kind while eliminating the bad. The body needs a constant supply of HDL cholesterol for proper health and performance. The typical American diet is too rich in LDL cholesterol, of course. And what you're going to find out is that in America, our diets are too rich in all the bad stuff. You think that's by coincidence, or do you think that's by design? Okay. More on that later. Okay. With recommendations for optimal health, keeping overall cholesterol intake under 300 milligrams per day, individuals at risk for chronic health problems may be prescribed preventative nutrition plans with a severely restricted cholesterol intake. And so we're generally speaking here. Okay, everyone is different, so one person's needs may be different than the other, but in general, this is what we have. So here you have the good cholesterol. And this is what your arteries look like when you have the HDL. But when you have the LDL, which is the bad, this is what your arteries look like. You have what is called plaque, arterial plaque built up in your blood vessels. And now your blood cells cannot get through all this plaque. And when they get stuck and it creates a block, and as the blood continues to flow, we all know the saying, pressure busts a pipe. So this is where you get your pop blood vessels, you get your strokes, and all these things going on. right? So, um, and again, the LDL is what is highest in American diets. So now we can start to understand the heart attacks, the strokes, all the health issues that America has and the other countries don't have. You need to look no further than the diet. Understand what's going on in the diet. Okay, is a normal artery, and you have the artery narrowed. Okay, with the LDL. Excess LDL can narrow arteries, leading to blood flow and heart issues. Okay, here comes your heart attack. And before we move on from the cholesterol, let us look real quick here. I have an article off of Healthline. 11 high cholesterol foods, which to eat, which to avoid, and more. So let's look at the good. Where do you find the good cholesterol? So it says here, cholesterol in food is often misunderstood. Eating healthy high cholesterol foods is actually not harmful to most people. Some of these foods are even loaded with important nutrients. This article explains why you should not fear cholesterol and lists 7 healthy food options as well as 4 to avoid. So let's talk about the healthy foods. Where can we find foods that have the healthy cholesterol high in this, what we need? Number 1, eggs. How many of you all out there love to eat eggs? Well, pretty sure a lot of people do. And I know a lot of people take the yolk and they throw it out and say, well, that's got cholesterol in it. Can't eat that. Well, you just threw out all that good cholesterol, right? And some fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A and vitamin D, because there is no cholesterol in the whites. The whites is just protein. Okay, so when you throw that yolk out, you threw out all those healthy fats. Eggs are one of the most nutritious foods you can eat, especially as a source of protein. They also happen to be high in cholesterol. See, so they'll tell you don't eat that. It's high in cholesterol. Okay, but here's what you have to understand. Research suggests that eggs don't raise cholesterol levels and that eating whole eggs may boost heart protective, high density lipoprotein, HDL, cholesterol, also known as good cholesterol. So eggs are a superfood. The reason why you're starting to see an attack on our egg supply right now with what this disease they say that's out there hurting the chickens, right? Spreading from chickens to cows to people, right? We have an attack going on against those things which are most beneficial to our health. Coincidence or by design? You see, so it's not just the misinformation to have you misunderstand what fats are good for you. At the same time, eliminating those foods that they're saying are bad, the animals that they come from, eliminating them through these particular means of saying that they now are disease ridden and can spread it to you. Okay, so we have to understand and be able to read between the lines and see, discern what's happening when we see these things in our reality. Number 2, cheese. How many people have been told don't eat the cheese? Okay. So it has, it talks about the fats that are in the cheese, which is considered a high intake, but didn't raise LDL cholesterol. Okay. So we're seeing that the cheese fats, which cheese comes from milk, which comes from cows, all right, is not raising your cholesterol. Now, shellfish, we're skipping because it's unlawful according to the Bible. So we do not deal with shellfish or any type of shellfish products. But nonetheless, That's where it's found in nature as well. Number 4, pasture raised steak. Okay, so we're talking about grass fed, organic. We're not talking about GMO cows that are eating grain, because the grain which these cows are eating is unnatural. Okay, cows were never designed to eat grain. Also, what just so happens to be packed within the grain that the cows are eating, linoleic acid. So when you're getting grain fed GMO cows, and you have a lot of people who have problems with beef or beef products like dairy, this here lies the issue. It's not the beef, it's not the cow. Okay, it's the unnatural state that it's in. It's an abomination. Okay, and again, 2 of the most healthy things, or we've read 3 so far: chickens with their eggs, cows with the cheese that comes from the milk, and the pasture raised steak. And what do we see happening right now? We're seeing a chicken passing a disease to a cow, and then the cow passing the disease to a human. And in response to that, we must now kill all the chickens and all the cows. So there's a demonization campaign going on. And also, these particular animals produce large amounts of carbon, which is leading to climate change. Okay, so we got to understand the reason why this is being, perpetrated, right, in our reality right now, because of the health benefits. When you get grass-fed, pasture-raised steak, it is one of the beef. It's one of the most nutritious things you can eat. It's packed with protein, important vitamins and minerals. It's lower in cholesterol than feedlot beef and contains significantly more omega-3 fatty acids, which have anti-inflammatory properties. So when you eat the beef, you're getting the omega-3 and you're not getting the omega-6. But they'll tell you that it's bad, along with the fats from the beef. And for those people that have issues with beef and dairy, you typically need to look no further than the fact that you're probably dealing with beef and dairy products that aren't grass-fed. Okay, and now your body's having a reaction because it's unnatural. But when you're dealing with the grass-fed, right, your body receives it, and you don't have those allergic reactions or those tolerances, those intolerances that a lot of people have. Okay. So lots of cholesterol, good cholesterol, healthy fats in beef. Okay. Organ meats. We talked about the organ earlier. We're skipping that. For those that want to eat organs, knock yourself out. Sardines, again, fatty fish. Fatty fish are going to be high, not only in the cholesterols and the healthy fats, but also protein, minerals, vitamins, as well as being low in carbs. Full fat yogurt, another dairy product. What do you know? Cholesterol rich food packed with nutrients and cholesterol, good cholesterol. Research associates increased intake of full fat fermented dairy products with reduced LDL cholesterol and blood pressure. Another major condition and disease within America, high blood pressure. It was a time I remember when they were running in on raw dairy markets and seizing their products. I don't know if y'all remember that, if it's still happening, but I remember there was a time when they were running in on raw dairy farmers, okay, and confiscating, destroying the milk and the dairy products. Now it starts to make sense why. Okay, we're not even talking about the probiotics that are in the dairy. Okay, but this has to be grass fed. This has to be pasture raised cows to be able to tolerate and receive the benefits, the nutritional benefits from these particular things that can help us with getting the right fats and cholesterol. But it lowers blood pressure and a lower risk of stroke, heart disease, and diabetes. Again, the omega-3, the saturated fats. So we're seeing how these particular fats that have been demonized for so long has led us down this path of heart disease, number one killer in American health. At the same time, all this time, these particular things were demonized when it's actually the other way around. These things actually help reduce. So they demonize these things so that we would go toward the thing that would actually encourage and cause the health conditions we're seeing here. So now let's talk about those bad cholesterol foods we should avoid. Fried foods. Here we go. What are most fried foods fried in? Vegetable oil. Okay. Soybean, corn, safflower, sunflower, corn oil, canola oil. Okay. Unsaturated fats, which is where your linoleic acid is hiding. And because everybody's eating fried foods, you go to a restaurant, there's no restaurant that's not frying with vegetable oils. You yourself, you may be frying with vegetable or seed oils. I know a lot of people out there like grapeseed oil. Okay. High in omega-6. Grapeseed oil is through the roof with omega-6. Okay. And so therefore now you're taking yourself down this path for disaster with inflammation. Okay. On top of the fried foods, the fast food, which typically is going to be fried in the vegetable oil, it's all prepared with vegetable oil. It's all prepared with basically linoleic acids, which when you look at linoleic acid, when you do the research, it takes 2 years for this stuff to get out your body. It has a half-life of 2 years just to get out your body. So it's not like it just exits the body easily. So imagine you're eating fast food and fried food and vegetable oil all day long, all day, every day. You're leading yourself down the diabetic, high blood pressure, heart disease road. All right, path, which ends in disaster. Processed meats. Okay. Processed meats like your sausages, your bacon, your hot dogs. Okay. Basically, again, we're talking about stuff that's processed. Okay. It's been put together and it's been ingredients added, all different kind of stuff going on in the process to make it a product to put before you on a shelf to be stable for long enough for you to get your hands on it to eat it. Last but not least, desserts, because your desserts are going to have also, when you look at the ingredients at the top, vegetable oil. Okay. If we're talking about desserts that are made with, grass-fed dairy and things like that, that's different. Okay. But we're talking about typically when you go to a store and you get some desserts in the frozen section on the inner aisles of your grocery store, look at the top of the list. I guarantee you're going to see a vegetable oil. Okay. Your highly inflammatory linoleic acid is at the top of the list. And when you eat this food, notice how you feel. Notice how your body feels when you eat this. See, they'll tell you, they'll tell us nothing about fast food, fried foods, this processed meat, or these desserts. but they'll demonize all day long the yogurt and the beef, the cheese, the eggs. They'll demonize this stuff all day long, but they'll encourage you to eat the list below what we just read. Okay, so now we understand why we're at where we are as a country when it comes to our health. So let's go back to our document speaking about the macronutrient fats, and start to round this off. I'm going to show a video and then I'm going to go through some scriptures here to round this out. Okay, to round this out. Let me see if there was anything else. So digestion, I'm going to talk a little bit about digestion of fats. The digestion of fats is a much more detailed process than other macronutrients. Each segment of the digestive tract has a different role in packaging, absorbing, transporting, and storing fats in the body. From mouth to the stomach, fats first begin to break down in the mouth through chewing. The enzyme lingual lipase starts the process of digestion in saliva, using the amino acids to break them down. Saliva also acts as an emulsifier, dispersing tiny droplets of fat and separating them from the watery components. Okay, in the stomach, gastric lipase breaks down these fats. Churning of the stomach during digestion also helps to break down fats. Fatty acid digestion takes much longer than carbohydrate digestion, and only about 30% of the fats are broken down 2 to 4 hours after eating. Diglycerides act as emulsifiers to break down nutritional fats. However, fats must move further down the digestive tract to be fully digested and absorbed. Okay, we're not going to go into the absorption of how fats are absorbed. Fats also help when it comes to our digestion and the hormones that are and the enzymes that are created for digestion. So if you're somebody who's dealing with constipation, okay, look no further than the unsaturated fats in your diet, the vegetable oils, the seed oils, and not enough of the saturated fats in your diet to help you for digestion. Okay. You also have what is known as ketogenesis. Okay. With adequate carbohydrate levels, the body's main energy pathway is glycogenolysis. Okay. Meaning that when you have a lot of carbs, carbohydrates, your body's going to use that for energy. And that's the term there for that. Okay, and it's the first thing the body uses for energy when you exercise. Okay, however, in some situations, the body energy production shifts to the ketogenic pathway. So when all the glycogen or the carbs are burnt up as energy, your body's going to now shift to fats, which is really what you want to do. You want to make sure your body's in a really fat burning state so that you are burning fat. Okay, and this will keep a person from becoming overweight or obese. They'll keep their body fat percentage lower. Okay. So ketogenesis, the definition, the process of breaking down fatty acids to produce ketone bodies and used in certain circumstances for energy production. So you heard of the keto diet, right? It's a diet that's more higher in fat and using fat for energy. Okay, ketone bodies are water soluble and easily transported and taken into cells for energy production. All right, and I think that might be it before we go to, of course, it has the nutritional sources of fats. We're going to do our own display of this outside of this particular document here, this textbook, because, it's outdated and is with the traditional more in line with the modern emphasis of the fats that we should be going for versus the traditional fats we've always had in our diets before now, which has led us to this path of heart disease, cancer, diabetes. So let's deal with that now. All right, we want to deal with now where the good fats versus the bad fats. I have a video here with one of our doctors, one of our friends here, Dr. Eric Berg, does a lot of good work. We have good fat versus bad fat. I'm going to break this down as we go along, and then we're going to also go into some scripture at the end of this as well. So we go ahead and play this video for you all. Fair use. I hope that this able to use his video here on YouTube. If not, then we'll have to give it to you all to look at on your own time. But fair use.
All right, let's talk about good fats and bad fats. Let's start over here at the bad fats. Soy, corn, canola, cottonseed, all GMO. Okay. The processing of these oils, they use a solvent called hexane sometimes, which is kind of toxic. Not to mention, there could be traces of glyphosate, which is an herbicide. But these are severely heated, and they're in a lot of foods that we eat. They're definitely in some common foods like mayonnaise. Okay, so if you just go to the grocery store and you just start reading labels, you're going to see this one, number one, or this one right here. Mayonnaise, salad dressing is another big one right here. And even hummus, right? They don't even make it with olive oil anymore. They have to put these other oils in there.
So typically what you have here are these oils are typical of what we have mostly in our diet. And this is where all your linoleic acid is hiding. Not only that, but most of the time, these particular, what they would call vegetables or seeds, are GMO. So not only is it high in the linoleic acid, but it's genetically modified and engineered. Here goes your fast food, restaurant foods. We just read that earlier on Healthline. And so you're going to see this oil used to fry all your foods. It's going to be in your junk foods. It's going to be in your sweets. Also your mayonnaise. Look at your mayonnaise. Okay. Your mayonnaise is going to be filled with soy, canola, all right, some type of vegetable oil. Your salad dressing. Look at your salad dressings. Look at the ingredients. It's going to have one of these vegetable or seed oils. Okay. Omega-6, linoleic, all of this. Okay. And now we understand why our ratio is 30-1 in some of the most extreme cases, or maybe that might even be normal. Why there's so much heart attacks, heart disease, cancer. It's all right here on this right side of this chart. Let's keep going.
So you just need to start reading labels. So these are inflammatory, stay away from them. Of course, margarine, that's a given, has trans fats. Crisco, for example, was on the market for 97 years. It might still be on the market, but as far as trans fats go, several years ago, I think it was in 2015, the FDA finally put a ban on it, but then they gave these companies 3 years to phase out of these trans fats. And so at this point, I don't even know who complied, who didn't comply, but the fact that trans fats, the most deadly fats in our food supply, has been on the market for 97 years is just insane. I mean, before the trans fats, we had things like tallow and lard. Lard is pig fat and tallow is beef fat or lamb fat. And of course,
so before all of this, what you see on the right side, bad fats, these vegetable oils, these seed oils, what do we have? What do we always use? fats from animals, tallow. Now, I know some people are, clowning him for having lard on the list, which of course is unclean, but let's just keep it real. We all have had pig lard. Okay. So let's not act like none of us are exempt from having pig lard. Okay. So we hope that, at some point he gets the understanding to stay away from the pig lard. Okay. But the main thing we're dealing with here is the animal fats, what we've always used before the 1900s. And this vegetable oil craze has been more recent within the last 120 years. And now, whereas we didn't have the heart disease, now we have it, in an extraordinary amount with people in their health. Okay, but let's keep going here.
And of course, ingrained into our mind, these are poison, and this is the health food. Remember the commercial where they talked about,
it's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
I don't even understand what that means, because
So they actually had a margarine commercial talking about it's not nice to fool Mother Nature when margarine is synthetic. Doesn't come from Mother Nature. Doesn't come from nature. Okay. So they've conditioned us to think that this over here is good. This is bad. And, at some point we might do, I talked about it before, the vegan deception. And this is no knock on vegans, but there is a lot of deception within that realm of people that are in that world of veganism, because all this stuff over here is vegan. So a lot of vegans think that they're doing okay, and that they're good, and people that eat animal are bad. Okay, but there's a lot of deception within veganism. Okay, if you're a vegan and you have this stuff, this vegetable and corn, or this vegetable and seed oil high in your diet, you're in bad shape. All right, you may not necessarily know it yet. You could be younger, and your body hasn't shown the signs. But as you get older and you age, okay, now you're getting into a danger zone. Okay, so nothing wrong with the person wants to be vegan. Okay, but there is a lot of deception within that world. Just because something is vegan doesn't make it good. All right, beer is vegan, right? Candy bars, there are candy bars, all kind of junk food that's vegan. It doesn't make it good. Okay, but let's keep going here.
because they are fooling Mother Nature with margarine. The other place that so many people are getting these oils into their body, which by the way are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, and it's just way out of proportion, because we want to balance the 6 with the omega-3 fatty acid, is in fast food restaurants, as well as other restaurants that are not fast food. They put it in there in sauces. They definitely use it to deep fry things, and that's what you're getting. You're getting a lot of these oils. Let's just shift over to these oils right here: safflower oil, sunflower oil, flax oil, sesame seed oil, which then turns into this tahini butter, and then certain nut oils like peanut oil, macadamia nut oil. These are okay for certain people in smaller amounts, as long as they're cold pressed. Organic would be preferable, but if you have too much, even safflower oil or sunflower oil can be way too much in omega-6. So I actually don't even recommend it, but in small amounts here and there, it's going to be okay.
So you have this particular mid tier, which is better than this low tier, but it's still bad. Okay, still bad. But if you were to get some of this in your diet, then it's not the end of the world. Okay. And again, this stuff is everywhere. So you're not going to fully eliminate it, because unless you're living on a farm and you are making all your products, if you're getting anything out the store, okay, then it's very hard to avoid. And if you're eating out, it's unavoidable. You go out to a restaurant, it's unavoidable. It's going to be there. Okay. Unless you're going to like a Mediterranean grill and they're using the old school oils or old school fats to cook with, Those are the only places you're going to steer clear of these bad fats, which is this vegetable oil craze that and the reason why is because the vegetable oil is cheap. It's very, very cheap versus the cooking fats here on your left are more expensive. So of course they're going to go the cheap route and give us the cheap version of cooking our food and making our food with. But I wouldn't doubt that it's deeper than just the fact that it's cheap, right? It kills two birds with one stone. It's cheaper and it's deadly. Okay. But you just have to do the best you can, making as much of the stuff by scratch. That way you know what's in it, and you avoid what you see here on this right side. All right, let's keep going.
Flax oil is very estrogenic. The only time I would recommend that is for females that are lacking estrogen and maybe they need a little boost over a short period of time, but definitely not for men. And then we have sesame seed oil or tahini butter. Again, small amounts, make sure it's cold pressed, and you can get raw tahini butter, which is actually better than the overly processed. And then of course the nut oils, again, they're omega-6, so small amounts here and there, preferably organic. So this is a no. This is occasionally for certain people. But let's get to the good fats. Cod liver oil is one of the best oils to give you omega-3 fatty acids, both DHA, which your brain needs, and EPA, which your brain and nervous system need, as well as your immune system, not to mention vitamin D and vitamin A. And then we have avocado oil. It's really good to put on your salad, or you can even cook with it. It does have vitamin E. If you cook with it, the heat is going to kill off vitamin E. Okay, then we have...
Now with the avocado oil here real quick, and this is an issue you're going to find with all oils, especially the healthier oils, is that unless you're getting it from a trusted source, you don't know that it's 100%. They're cutting these oils with cheaper oils and selling it as avocado. And at the bottom, we'll get to oil. We'll get to olive oil here at the bottom. They're cutting it and calling it 100% when it's been cut and it's not 100%. So that's a big problem that you run into with avocado oil. Okay. Also, I believe that there is just superior oils than avocado. I've actually eliminated avocado oil cooking using, and I've noticed a night and day difference in how I feel. My energy levels, my body, my hormones, everything seems better. And I'll share that here in a moment, but definitely better than this over here. But I think you can do better even than avocado oil. Okay. I just wanted to make that note there.
Have vitamin E. If you cook with it, the heat is going to kill off vitamin E. Okay, then we have lard, which is considered something that's going to clog your arteries. Of course, certain cultures, certain religions do not consume lard.
Us being one, right? It's unclean. So yes, we're not dealing with the lard. Okay, but again, it's just showing you that it's a saturated fat. Okay, compared to the unsaturated.
Or anything connected with a pig. Other people, when they think about pig or pig fat, they're thinking about processed pork, factory farming. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about getting something like wild boar fat, which are pigs, which are boars that have lived in the open forest in Texas. And you can get the fat from that. It's high in vitamin D3. So ideally, you'd want organic, pastured lard if you're going to actually get that to cook with or use in certain recipes. But if we were to compare this with this is like synthetic plastic, and this has been used for a very long time, and it doesn't create the oxidation that these type of fats do. It's very stable. It's good to cook with. Then you have tallow, which is beef fat. I would recommend grass-fed. You can get either bison.
Now this is what we had to look to start focusing on cooking with. Okay, how many of you all cook with tallow? Okay, it needs to be grass-fed. So tallow is basically comes from your clean, lawful animals like your cattle or your bison or your lamb. Basically, what it is, it's the fat from these animals whipped up into a almost like a buttery state, a whipped up state, and you use it for cooking. Okay, and again, I've been using this a lot lately, and man, night and day difference using the tallow over the avocado oil. Man, it tastes good, the food tastes good, and you feel good after eating it.
Halo, which is beef fat. I would recommend grass-fed. You can get either bison, beef, or lamb. It's great to cook.
And it has to be grass fed. Okay. You want grass fed organic. Okay. No GMO, no grain fed of anything. Okay.
Cook with. There's a lot of vitamins, there's a lot of nutrition, and it won't irritate your gut problems. So either one of these is good for someone with an autoimmune disease that has a lot of inflammation in the gut. Camel fat, okay, which is
camel is unclean. Okay, so we're skipping past the camel. All right, we're not dealing with no camel, but nonetheless, it's a saturated fat that people use. I lived overseas in the Middle East. Muslims, they use it. They eat camel. All right, but what do we have next? The next one.
Okay, grass-fed, I would always recommend if you could find. Then we have butter. Okay, grass-fed, I would always recommend.
Butter. Okay, if they told us butter was bad, they lied. Okay, grass-fed butter, which is nothing else than milk. All right, they separate the proteins in the milk, the solids, and they whip it up and it makes butter. I've been using grass-fed butter. Man, night and day difference than using the avocado oil. So I typically only use the tallow and the butters for cooking as far as fats. And you'll get your healthy fats that way. Let's keep going here.
Man, if you could find organic raw, that would be the ideal situation. But butter has vitamin K2, omega-3 fatty acids, and CLA. Organic ghee from grass-fed cows is also really good.
Ghee, let me tell you something. Ghee, if you want the gold of butter, get ghee. Okay, it's on a higher level than the grass-fed butter. You can cook it at a higher temperature. I believe the burn temperature for ghee is like what, 450 plus. So that's another key thing when it comes to cooking is the burn temperature, right? So ghee and has to be grass fed, ghee and butter, along with your tallow.
To cook with as well. It's clarified, which means they get rid of all the solids. So you're not going to be exposing your body to any type of protein particles that you could have an allergy to, or the lactose, which is the milk sugar. But for the most part, you're not going to see much of that in butter. But for some people that are really sensitive, they should do ghee. And then, of course, we have olive oil, one of my favorites. Always get the extra virgin and get it from a real quality source.
So olive oil, real important, very, very healthy. However, you cannot cook with it because it has a low burn temperature, or you shouldn't cook with it. I wouldn't suggest cooking with olive oil. If you're going to use olive oil, use it without cooking. You can make salad dressings with it. You can some people just take it, just spoonfuls of it and drink it. A spoonful a day just to get it in their system. High in antioxidants, very, very healthy. And what you have to make sure of, like he's saying, with the olive oil, it has to be a good source, meaning you don't want to get an olive oil that comes from 5 different countries. Like when you look on the back, it'll say country of origin. If it has more than one country, stay away from it. Okay, you want to get an olive oil that's imported. It'll say imported from Italy, or imported from Greece, or imported from Tunisia, or from Spain. All right, you only want one country, so that way it's not a bunch of mixed together olive oils that you don't know what again, because a lot of olive oils are also sold with being cut with one of these oils over here, so they can sell it and make a profit, make a huge profit. Okay, so typically your more expensive olive oils are going to be your better olive oils. Okay, so find a good source, good company, one country of origin. Okay, don't look to cook with the olive oil, but definitely you want to use it. Very, very, very healthy. And was there one more point with the olive oil? It'll come to me if I remember it.
I order this from this version right here. I love this version. It's from Italy, and it's high quality. The farm where they grow this takes great pride in making high quality olive oil, and it's just very, very fresh.
What I was going to say is how you know you have a good olive oil when you taste it. It has a very strong bite to it. Okay, very spicy, strong bite. That's the sign of a good and excellent olive oil. Okay, if it doesn't have a bite to it, then I couldn't recommend a person that would be a good source of olive oil.
It's like way different than stuff you would get at, in America at Costco, which I don't even know if it's legitimate. But this is a seriously high quality product. I'll put a link down below if you want more information about it. I don't get any kickbacks, but I like to recommend products that are high quality. And then we have palm oil, which is very controversial. So the type of palm oil that I would recommend is the eco-friendly, environmentally friendly palm oil that uses certain pharma that doesn't destroy our planet. The red palm has some pretty high level of antioxidants as well as beta carotene. And then we have coconut oil, okay? High in lauric acid. It turns into ketones. It'll help ketosis, and it's really good to cook with. And of course, you'd want to get the coconut oil that's also eco-friendly. All right,
So for vegans, those people would say, well, what do I do? Because all this is animal, right? Typically. Well, you do have your olive oil. And if you were going to cook with olive oil, low heat, okay, it has to be very, very low heat or it'll burn. You have your palm oil and you have your coconut oil. Okay, coconut is going to be the one that's more higher in saturated fats. The reason why when you typically see coconut oil, it's in a solid state. So you have your coconuts. You also have avocados by themselves, not the oil, but just regular avocados, high in good healthy fats. Okay, let's finish out here, and I'm gonna pull the list up for you all.
Coconut oil that's also eco-friendly. All right, so there you go. There's a quick summary of the good and bad oils, and these right here that kind of fit right in between. Hey, before you go, real quick.
All right, so now let me pull this up, and I'm gonna go hit a scripture real quick, and then we'll conclude this live stream. Okay, so. Let me see here. So here are your healthy fats foods. I wanted to show you all this. Your healthy fats food. So you have your avocados, healthy fats, your fatty fish, like your sardines or your salmon, fatty fish, okay? Your olives and your olive oil, your coconut and your coconut oil. You also have your egg yolks, right? Your grass-fed butter and ghee, as well as your nuts and seeds and their butters. And I would, if you're going to do a butter, I would stay away from peanut butter. Peanut butter is the lowest of the nuts that you should really be dealing with because of very, very hard to digest. Be better off with the almond butter, much better quality almonds with their profile of healthy fats and protein and minerals. And then you have your seeds, like your chia seeds, your hemp seeds, your flax seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, right? So now, scripture. I wanted to get a scripture here real quick. And this is just a rule of thumb when it comes to healthy fats. Okay, rule of thumb. So let me pull this up. I'm in the book of Genesis, chapter 18, or just when it comes to our health. Okay, this is talking about the fats, but in general, when it comes to what we should be eating, we have to get back to what I call the Mediterranean diet, which is basically the stuff that we read of in the Bible or in scripture. Okay, let's see what they ate in the Bible to understand if it was good. Okay, Genesis 18:7 reads, "And Abraham ran unto the herd and fetched a calf tender and good." Okay, so he fetched a baby cow. Okay, when you look at that word there for calf, you're talking about a clean animal, right? A bull, cow. Okay, so that's what he went and fetched to eat it, but not only eat the cow. It says, and gave it unto a young man, and he hasted to dress it. So meaning he's now butchering this cow to eat. So beef. Also from the cow, you get what? And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. So for those of you all that caught the Patreon earlier, it's the spirit, because it falls right in line with what Elder Lawya, he read the scripture, right? And so you see Abraham eating beef and butter and milk. Now, of course, this wasn't GMO, right? This is organic grass-fed beef. It says here, for butter, curdled milk or cheese, right? So whenever you go through the scriptures, you'll see butter and you'll see milk and you'll see cheese. All right. This is all the stuff they ate. And if it was good for Abraham, not only Abraham, the angels were eating this too. The angels were eating this with Abraham. Okay. If it was good enough for Abraham and the angels, hey, it's good enough for us. All right. The problem is our food supply has been altered. And so now we have this reactions to when we eat this stuff. Lactose intolerant, all that stuff is man-made. Okay. We shouldn't be lactose intolerant. All right. But this is where a lot of nourishment and the nutrition was coming from, was from this, what we're reading here. And you didn't see Abraham, he didn't say nothing about vegetable oil. Okay. A canola or soybean or safflower or no, butter. Okay. And when you talk about the oil in the scriptures, what we see spoken of in scripture, with oil, you see olive oil. Okay. We'll see olive oil spoken of in scripture. So we're going to, deal more with all of the diet, what we should be eating, what we shouldn't be eating. But hopefully with what we discussed here in this live stream has been very edifying for you all. Hopefully you've learned, some things that you didn't know about fats that you can apply now to your regimen, your dietary regimen, what to avoid if you want to have good health. And we're going to go into some actual other studies, other doctors' papers that they've written when it comes to linoleic acids, and how even being said could be the number one reason that our health is so messed up here in America. Okay, so more on that in due time. But I pray for all of you all that this information is well received, and I will continue to hope and pray that you are good in your health. And until next time, here for GOCC Fit and the Gathering of Christ Church, I bid you all Godspeed and God bless.